Imagine a world where the hero, once destined to protect humanity, turns against it, killing every loved one he ever had. The devoted lady who worshipped him, the mage who fought by his side, the princess who entrusted him with her kingdom, the priestess who dedicated everything to aid him, and the woman who loved him more than anything in the world. They all fell by his hand, all for the sake of defeating the demon lord and saving the world. What he didn't know was that his journey wasn't over. He would be sent back in time, before the tragedy unfolded, and granted a mysterious system. This system gave him a new role, a false villain. He must now pretend to be the world's enemy, while secretly working to save it. This time, he has the chance to rewrite fate, not just to save the world, but, more importantly, to protect the people he loves. Now let's get into the main story. I hope I hooked you. 10 years ago, in a kingdom adorned with golden palaces that stretched as far as the eye could see, there lived a little boy named Frey. One day, he turned to his father and asked, "What are these glowing, warm-like characters?" His father, a tall and robust man with hair as crimson as the setting sun, smiled and replied, "These are called kana. Only those descended from the hero family Starlight are able to read them." With a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder, Frey's father led him to the entrance of a mysterious dungeon. The passageway shimmered with blue text that illuminated the entire doorway. Frey hesitated, looking up at his father. "What about you, father? Won't you come inside with me?" His father knelt to meet his gaze and said firmly, "Frey, you must be strong. You've heard of the prophecies spreading throughout the kingdom, haven't you?" "Yes, father," Frey nodded. "It speaks of a day, 1,000 years after the demon lord vanished, when their successor will rise to consume the world. But at the same time, a new hero shall emerge to save it." Frey paused, his voice filled with both awe and uncertainty. "It's about the world left behind by our ancestors, the ones who defeated the demon lord, right?" His father gave him a solemn nod, his expression unreadable. "That's right. This is the prophecy told by the Empire. But there's more to it, something that has only been passed down within our family." Frey stared at his father in surprise, his young mind racing to make sense of the moment. His father continued, his tone growing heavier. "The prophecy speaks not only of the successor to the demon lord and the new hero who will rise to face them. It also foretells that this moment will come precisely 1,000 years after the demon lord was defeated. And that time is now." Frey's father leaned closer, his face serious, his gaze so intense that it almost frightened the little boy standing before him. Our protagonist, Frey, stepped into the room alone. The air felt heavy, and the darkness swallowed everything around him. He couldn't see a thing until, suddenly, the room was bathed in a glowing blue light, illuminating the entire space. Frey yelped in fear, instinctively screaming for his father. But after a moment, he managed to calm himself. As his eyes adjusted, he glanced around in awe. This can't be," he whispered, his voice trembling. Drawn toward the source of the light, Frey approached a table at the center of the room. His heart raced as he saw it. The legendary sword of the hero, resting on a pedestal. The blade radiated an otherworldly aura, its energy so powerful that it caused Frey's hair to ripple as though caught in a strong wind. His eyes widened in astonishment, his mouth agape. "Is this the legendary sword of the hero?" Frey murmured, hardly believing what he was seeing. Just then, a tall man appeared out of nowhere, as if stepping from the shadows themselves. His hair was darker than charcoal, and he exuded an air of casual confidence. "Stop," the man said abruptly, his voice calm but commanding. "That sword is too much for you." Frey jumped in fear, nearly stumbling backward. Who are you?" he shouted, his voice a mix of panic and indignation. "I was alone in here a second ago. Where did you come from?" The man's expression darkened with irritation. "Don't you even recognize the face of your own ancestor?" Frey tilted his head, staring at the man. "That's really weird," he muttered, thinking out loud. "I thought our ancestors were supposed to be really handsome. Like, weren't they supposed to be really handsome?" The man's expression twitched, and his irritation grew. He muttered under his breath, his voice rumbling low, "This brat." Then, with a glare, he said aloud, "I'll send you home if you keep this up." Taking a deep breath to calm himself, The man folded his arms. Anyway, you came here because you want to learn how to conquer this world, right? Frey blinked, his confusion evident. Conquer? No. I only came here because my dad said I should. He said it would help me protect my friends. The man raised an eyebrow and smirked slightly. That does include conquering, so he wasn't exactly lying. He just didn't tell you the whole truth. He leaned closer, his tone shifting to something more serious. For now, just listen. The world you live in might be in hard mode, but that doesn't mean it's doomed to a bad ending. He grabbed the chain around his neck, the light reflecting off the metal as he began explaining the situation in simple terms, trying to make it easier for Frey to understand. But Frey's puzzled expression didn't change. He squinted, his head tilting slightly. Hard mode? Bad ending? What are you even talking about? The man sighed heavily, pinching the bridge of his nose in frustration. You're not getting it, are you? He stared at the boy for a long moment before finally giving up. Fine. You'll just have to see it for yourself. Without warning, the man reached out, his hand brushing against Frey's face. Frey flinched, letting out a startled scream as his eyes rolled back into his head. His body stiffened, and a chilling energy surged through him. This, the man said in a grim tone, is what the world looks like if you take the wrong route. A devastating wave of images flooded Frey's mind, so vivid it felt as though he was there himself. He saw a demon soaring through the skies, laying waste to everything below. A figure wreathed in flames, with crimson as deep as blood, incinerated the world with merciless power. Orcs and high goblins rampaged across the land, destroying everything in their path. Humans, insects, and animals alike. Nothing was safe. The visions grew more harrowing as they focused on Frey's loved ones. He saw them fall, one by one, meeting agonizing ends. And then, as if the torment weren't enough, he saw his own death, painful and inevitable. A voice shattered the silence in his mind. Do you see it now? This is the world that has fallen into despair, the man said, his tone cold and unrelenting. Frey collapsed to his hands and knees, gasping desperately for air. Sweat dripped from his brow, and his heart felt like it was being crushed under the weight of what he had just witnessed. Agony clawed at his soul, tears streaming freely down his face. The man observed the boy with a somber expression, muttering to himself, I don't blame him. He's just a child. How could he face the loss of everything he holds dear? But the question is, will he be strong enough? I need to know what he'll choose. Through the pain and despair, Frey clenched his fists. His voice, shaky yet resolute, broke the silence. I'll show you just like my ancestors did. I will protect this world, and the people I love. The man's eyes widened in amazement before a faint smile crossed his lips. I almost forgot, this boy is a hero too. His tone shifted, now carrying both respect and gravity. Very well then, I'll show you the only path to a happy ending. But listen closely, this road is not an easy one. To save this world and those you love, you'll have to destroy it with your own hands. You'll need to sacrifice everything, including yourself, to defeat the Demon King. He paused, his voice growing more serious. And once you enter the hidden route, a new challenge will await. But no matter what, you must not falter, little one. Fast forward to the present day. Frey stood alone, reflecting on the past. His expression was distant as he muttered to himself, I finally made it onto the path to the happy ending. He sighed, his gaze turning sharp. But things haven't been the same. There's only one difference now, the system. A faint glow appeared before him, and a blue screen with a loading symbol materialized, displaying, updating, 66%. Frey stood silently, his gaze fixed on the glowing system screen before him. This feels so familiar, he muttered to himself, his thoughts drifting back to the prophecy he had seen as a child. The screen displayed, updating, 66%. Penalties are currently inactive. Only emergency protection skills are active. Frey thought to himself, if it works like this, then maybe I can handle it, even if it's my first time using it. Turning toward the window, he stared out at the scenery beyond. A chill ran down his spine. This is just like the images my ancestors showed me. His hand tightened into a fist. If I use the system wisely, if I can manage it until the end, I'll be able to save everyone. I have to. Before he could finish his train of thought, a knock came at the door. A soft, gentle voice called out from the other side. Young master, it's Kania. May I come in? Frey's expression brightened instantly, a rare smile gracing his face. Yeah, go ahead. Come in, he called out eagerly. It had been so long since he'd seen her, his childhood friend, the person who had always been by his side. Frey's heart swelled with relief and happiness. I've gone through so much just to get to this point, he thought. I should be able to take it easy for a while. At least, I can be happy to see her smile again. Just then, the system chimed again. Updating, 100%. A sudden flash of red illuminated the room, followed by a piercing warning. Warning. The main heroines have returned with their past memories. Frey froze, staring at the screen in disbelief. What? He thought, his mind racing. What did it just say? The door creaked open, and Kania stepped inside. Please excuse me, she said softly, bowing gracefully before him. Frey's heart clenched. Something was wrong. The air around her felt different, heavy. In her eyes, her gaze pierced through him with an unmistakable intensity. It was killing intent. Before Frey could react, the system flashed again, its ominous warning repeating, Warning. The 5 main heroines have returned with their past memories. Frey's thoughts spiraled into chaos. What did it just say? How could something this ridiculous even happen? In your previous life, you chose to commit evil acts that would destroy the world. In this life, however, you are forced to commit evil acts by a system. If your good deeds are discovered, you suffer a severe penalty. Your vitality will be significantly reduced. This restriction is necessary to clear the hidden routes set by the system. A series of status windows flashed before your eyes. System update complete. Status allocation. Item shop. Not yet open. Skill shop. Current balance of false evil points. 100 points. The system allows you to buy whatever you need using points accumulated from acts deemed evil by its parameters. Then, a new alert appeared. Emergency activation. The 5 main heroines have retained their memories from the previous timeline. Sweat dripped down the protagonist's face as he stared at the flashing panels. I didn't know any of this would happen, he muttered, panic rising in his voice. From behind, a soft but unnervingly chilling voice spoke. It was Kania, his loyal butler. Then, please excuse me, she said, her tone laced with an almost tangible killing intent. The protagonist's heart pounded. What an intense killing intent, he thought. He could feel it shaking the very fiber of his being. Kania, his trusted companion, had been born with dark mana that constantly drained her life force. Despite this, she served him faithfully in the past, until now. She was one of the 5 heroines foretold in the prophecy. If she retained her memories from the previous timeline, then a flashback surfaced in his mind. In the past timeline, he had been cruel to her. He recalled handing her a pen with a disdainful sneer. What's so praiseworthy about not having parents? He had mocked. You look like you want to be tossed out too. He had then kicked her to the ground, watching as she crumbled and cried. Now, standing in front of her, he began to panic. It wouldn't be strange for her to try to kill me at any moment, he thought. The tension in the air was palpable, and every instinct screamed at him to act. But how could he? The system's restrictions and her haunting memories left him with no clear path forward. The protagonist clenched his fists, unsure if his next move would be one of survival, redemption, or further descent into the role of the false villain. Kania asked, Young master, would you like me to bring you a meal? The protagonist, sitting on the bed and trying to relax after the overwhelming events, responded, Just give me the usual. Kania's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, a faint smile seemed to flicker on her face. She bowed and said, Yes, as you wish, before turning and walking out. The door slammed shut behind her with a resounding bang. The protagonist began to shiver, his body trembling as sweat dripped down his face. He couldn't control his thoughts. That cold gaze of hers, there's no doubt about it. She remembers the past. I don't know what's going on, but I should prepare myself for her. Before he could finish his thought, a system screen appeared before him again. Emergency activation. Emergency activation. Frustrated, he yelled out loud. What is it this time? The system screen displayed. Ability acquired. False villain's intuition. Description: you sense very strong killing intent nearby. The protagonist muttered to himself, I already felt that earlier. What's the point of the system? Another screen appeared. Skill acquired. False villain's intuition level 1. You are able to detect threats that could lead to your death once a day. He stared at the message, realization dawning on him. The skill is talking about Kania. But if she kills me, her master, she wouldn't be able to get away with it. Does she want to kill me so much that she doesn't even care about her own situation? As the door creaked open, a red, smoky mist began to envelop the room. Kania entered, pushing a cart with a tray on top, covered by a silver platter. I have brought you some soup, young master, she said, her voice calm and steady. The platter couldn't mask the strange aroma emanating from the dish. A purple, poisonous mist filled the air. Although it didn't harm either of them, the ominous atmosphere was unmistakable. The protagonist's thoughts raced. I see. She plans to feed me food laced with black magic and have me die under mysterious circumstances so she won't be traced back to it. Kania bowed as she presented the plate of soup. Please enjoy your meal, she said. The protagonist thought to himself, since she's retained her memories from the past, I must look like the worst trash to her. It can't be helped. I guess I have to start from here. Before Kania could leave, the protagonist abruptly stood up and shouted, Who the hell told you to bring me soup? Hurry up and bring me a damn sandwich instead. His voice was filled with anger and frustration, his face contorted with fear. Suddenly, he hurled the plate past her head, barely missing her. Kania's eyes widened in astonishment, clearly not expecting such a reaction. For a moment, she seemed shaken but quickly regained her composure. Bowing again, she said, I shall prepare something immediately, young master. She turned and left, slamming the door shut behind her. A system notification chimed with a ding. +1 false evil point. The protagonist stood there, breathing heavily, his mind a whirlwind of panic and resolve. This is going to be harder than I thought. A few minutes later, Kania returned to the room. Young master, I brought the sandwich, just as you ordered, she said, pushing another cart in. The aroma wafting from the sandwich was eerily similar to the soup from before. In an effort to avoid revealing that he knew she was trying to poison him, the protagonist stated, I don't see any cheese in there. Make the sandwich again. Kania hesitated, her lips parting as if to protest. But before she could utter a word, he snapped, Are you trying to talk back to me right now? A sweat appeared on her brow as she stammered, And no, young master. Bowing her head, she turned to leave and prepare another sandwich. When she returned, he examined it briefly before declaring, The bread is too dry. Make it again. The system chimed. +1 false evil point. Each time she came back with a new sandwich, he found a new fault. The system continued to chime. +1 false evil point. +1 false evil point. +1 false evil point. Finally, after several rounds, he yelled in frustration, Make it again, and collapsed back onto his bed. By the 8th attempt, Kania presented yet another sandwich, her voice trembling. A sandwich, just as you ordered, young master. The protagonist sighed internally. She really is a tedious girl, even though I made her redo it over and over again to exhaust her magic. He reached for the sandwich, pretending to take a bite, but stopped short as he looked at her. Her face, though weary, held a faint smile, and her eyes sparkled like diamonds in the night sky. For a moment he faltered, then declared, You know what? Let's just go with the soup from before. Make it again. Kania's body seemed to sag with frustration. Kneeling on the floor, she began to lose consciousness, her strength drained. Just as she was about to collapse, the protagonist caught her. Smiling faintly, he murmured, How ironic. I just wanted to spend a little time laughing with you again. I never thought that earning points would be so life-threatening for you. He hesitated, then placed a hand over her, glowing red and neon-colored health indicators appearing from his body. For now, I need to replenish your life force before anything bad happens to you, he muttered. But there's only one way to stabilize it. Dark matter. I'll have to forcefully transfer my life force to you. As the energy flowed from him to Kania, he whispered, I won't live long anyway, so I might as well give you what I can. I need to make good use of you to survive. When the transfer was complete, he collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. I'm finished for now. I need to figure out what to do with this ridiculous situation. It doesn't seem like everything is going according to plan. Lying on the bed, he thought to himself, there are only 2 months left until the main quest begins. I had planned to keep a low profile until then to avoid being found out. But this ridiculous situation happened right at the start. This system needs to give me a break. His eyes shifted to Kania, now sleeping peacefully on his bed. There are still 4 other main heroines I need to deal with. Luckily, I don't have to worry about my fiancée since she's traveling for now. The princess is currently being pressured by the imperial family, so she's powerless to interfere. But the truly troublesome ones are the priestess and the archmage. They're the ones I'll most likely encounter at the academy. He thought of the saintess, Ferloche. She's a naive idiot being manipulated by the cult, but one wrong move could socially destroy me. And then there was Irina. She's even worse. She doesn't think about the consequences of her actions. She might kill me as soon as she sees me. His gaze returned to Kania. Even my little butler here. But as long as I hold her sister hostage, she'll avoid trying to kill me openly. Determined, he resolved, I have to accumulate more false evil points. If I don't get stronger or find something to protect myself with, one of these 5 will kill me very soon. The points I can get from Kania alone are limited. It's risky, but the more people I come into contact with, the faster I can accumulate points. If I use the information from the Book of Prophecy, I should be able to cover myself to some extent. I'll try to finish arranging things tomorrow. The real challenge begins at the academy. The next morning, the protagonist sat on the floor, exhausted from reading the Book of Prophecy all night. Slouched against the side of his bed, he turned to look at his little butler, who was still asleep. She should be waking up soon, he muttered to himself. With a deep breath, he picked her up and unceremoniously tossed her onto the floor. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he thought, she's surprisingly heavy for someone so slight. Preparing to get into character, he took another deep breath and yelled, Are you planning to sleep all day? His fury seemed to radiate from him, and his teeth sharpened momentarily, resembling those of a dragon. The sudden outburst startled the little butler awake, causing her to let out a screech. As she regained her composure and turned to face him, her expression spoke volumes. It didn't require words. She couldn't help but wonder if her master had just defiled her dignity. He stared at her and sneered. Do you have a complaint or something? If it weren't for me, you'd be lazing around all day. Turning his gaze to the window, he added, Today is the first day at the academy, isn't it? Hurry up and get the carriage ready. The butler, her tone now calm and professional, replied, Understood. She dusted off her clothes, opened the door, and walked out. As soon as the door closed behind her, the protagonist sighed and opened the system interface. Still just 100 points, huh? The system screen displayed. Please choose one of the following options. Status allocation. Item shop. Not yet open. Skill shop. Currently accumulated false evil points. 100. He frowned, deep in thought. It looks like I'll need a few hundred points to buy anything useful. At this rate, he stared out the window, watching his little butler bustling about. Well, he muttered, I guess I'll have to earn them bit by bit to avoid getting killed. With a tired sigh, he leaned back. An academy life filled with people trying to kill me. Sounds like it's going to be so enjoyable. His voice dripped with sarcasm, his face a mix of exhaustion and resignation as he braced himself for what lay ahead. Later that evening, a group of students gathered, pouring drinks and toasting to the protagonist. That was such a moving speech you gave at the opening ceremony, one of the students exclaimed, raising his glass. The protagonist forced a smile and replied, You think so? You seem like someone who knows what they're talking about. His tone was layered with false flattery. Another student, a young man with slick black hair, added, It's only natural that the freshman representative would hail from the most powerful duke's family in the empire. A girl with bright yellow hair chimed in, You're absolutely amazing, young master. Everything about you is just perfect. The protagonist, sipping from his glass to suppress his irritation, replied, Of course. My intelligence and looks are unmatched, after all. Inside, however, he seethed. All of you are like a pack of hyenas, circling me with fake smiles. I can see your true intentions from a mile away. The black-haired boy leaned closer and spoke in a hushed tone. To show our sincerity, We've arranged for some of our family's merchandise to be displayed at the Imperial Palace. As a token of our goodwill, we've also prepared some entertainment for you. Commoner women, handpicked for your enjoyment. Please, take a look and make your choice. The protagonist's face betrayed a flicker of surprise. Did he really just say that out loud? He thought. Deciding to play along, he smirked and said, I'll judge your sincerity after I've had my share. Internally, his thoughts churned. Do these people have nothing in their heads besides women and money? They're completely rotten. I should do something about these nobles someday. But for now, I have to stick with them if I want to keep earning points. A familiar chime echoed in his mind. Ding! False evil points plus 10. In the background, the black-haired boy's voice rang out. Do you know how to listen, woman? Are you just arrogant? A muffled cry followed. Please, let me go, one of the women pleaded. The boy dragged her forward, ignoring her struggles. Shut up and get over here, he barked, before turning to the protagonist. He threw one of the girls onto the ground and grabbed another by her hair. Here, I brought them for you. One of the girls, with bright red hair as vivid as fire, struggled against him. Let go of me, she screamed, her voice fierce and defiant. The protagonist's eyes widened in recognition. His breath hitched, and he muttered in disbelief. Irina. Sweat dripped down his face as he took in her disheveled appearance. Her crimson hair was a mess, her cheeks were flushed, and her clothes were tattered and dirty. Yet, despite her condition, her fiery spirit burned in her gaze. No, this can't be possible, he thought, his mind racing. Irina Filliard? She's a genius with fire magic. Someone who can use every type of elemental magic. There's no way these fools could have captured her. Did she? His heart sank. Did she get caught on purpose? To kill me right here? He quickly summoned the system screen. System store. Information search. Level 1, 30 points. Emergency safeguard. 70 points. Mind reading. Level 1, 150 points. His eyes locked onto the emergency safeguard option. The description read, protects the user from one fatal attack. Can hold up to 3 safeguards at a time. This is it, he muttered. The points I earned from my butler yesterday are finally paying off. Another chime brought a new notification. Irina Filliard. Condition, mana exhaustion. His mind raced again. Mana exhaustion? A genius like her? Is she saving all her mana for a massive attack? On cue, Irina screamed, You bastards aren't going to get away with this. Another girl pleaded, Please, stop this already. The black-haired boy, his face twisted in frustration, yanked harder on their hair. Quiet, you vulgar women. Our protagonist, still seated and glaring at the black-haired boy, spoke in a stern, commanding tone. Get lost. The boy blinked in confusion. What? What did you just say? The protagonist's patience snapped. He repeated louder. I said, get lost. I'm going to enjoy myself with these women. So why don't you get out already? To emphasize his frustration, he threw his drink to the ground, shattering the glass. The black-haired boy and his companion, trembling at the sudden outburst, stammered simultaneously, Why yes, sir. Without wasting another second, they hurriedly retreated, muttering, Please, enjoy yourself, sir. The room fell silent, except for the shallow breathing of the 2 girls left behind. The protagonist turned his gaze to Irina and said smoothly, Now, how about we find a quieter place to enjoy ourselves? Irina glared at him, her fiery spirit unbroken. Just how far are you planning to go, you vile bastard? If I knew things would turn out like this, I would have used my ultimate magic on you instead of the Demon King's army. The protagonist tilted his head in mock confusion, stepping closer. What are you talking about? Maybe I should start by fixing that sharp tongue of yours. He reached out as if to touch her. Irina's eyes burned with indignation. Damn it. To think I'd get caught like this before midnight. A single tear slipped down her face. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for what was to come. When she reopened them moments later, she found the protagonist collapsed on the ground. Her thoughts raced. Did he drink too much and pass out? The other girl, having freed herself from the binds, rushed to Irina's side. Let's get out of here. He's drunk and unconscious. We're lucky. Terrible things happen to girls who get caught by nobles like them. Without hesitation, the 2 fled the room. The protagonist cracked an eye open and sighed in relief. Good thing they left, he muttered. Although I did scare them off with my superb acting, it was only possible because I used the emergency safeguard skill. A familiar system chime echoed in his mind. Ding! Drunkards belong in the trash. As the clock struck midnight, another notification appeared. Ding! Emergency safeguard successfully used. Target: Irina Filliard. Details: the 12 o'clock curse. The 12 o'clock curse condemns the target to death at midnight the day after it is cast. It can only be used once a year. The caster suffers from mana exhaustion for 1 year. The protagonist exhaled deeply, slouching against the wall. That was way too close. Just then, Kania, his loyal butler, entered the room. Young master, she said coolly, looking down at him. Frey chuckled weakly. Oh, it's just you, Kania. Eh? Her expression remained stern. You can't sleep in a place like this, she said, bending down to help him up. I can't walk right now, he whined. Carry me, Kania. She sighed, her patience wearing thin. His finger prodded her cheek playfully as he teased her, causing her to snap. Her voice turned cold. It would be nice if you behaved like this all the time, wouldn't it? Frey leaned his head back as she carried him. Sigh. I feel like I'm just trying to please a king. Whatever. He pushed the thought aside. Might as well boost her life force while I'm at it, he murmured. Without Kania noticing, a faint glow seeped from Frey into her, replenishing her strength. Her eyes darkened, her tone shifting to something icy. Frey, you're still as scummy as ever. If it weren't for you, my sister, and I would have killed you by now. Her words triggered a rush of memories in Frey's mind. He recalled a little girl presenting him with a crown she had made. Another memory surfaced of 2 girls warning him not to climb a tree. It's too dangerous, they pleaded, but he brushed them off, saying, It's fine. It's only a little further. The next memory showed him injured in bed after falling from that tree. One of the girls sat by his side, crying, as he reassured her. I'll be fine. See? I'm healing already. Finally, he remembered tying a red bow on Kania's shirt as she protested, flushed and embarrassed. Young master, I can do this myself, she said. He had smiled back then, replying, It's fine. It's fine. More importantly, calling me young master feels so distant. Just call me by my name, okay? The memories faded, and he found himself back in the present. Kania carried him silently, finishing her earlier thought. Just you wait. Once I ensure my sister's safety, I'll stop your breathing for good.